Right now, as you read this, your eyes are moving. Your clothes are pressing against your skin. The temperature of the air around you is registering on every exposed surface of your body. There are sounds in the background that you stopped noticing minutes ago. Your tongue is resting somewhere in your mouth. Your heart is beating. Your lungs are expanding and contracting. You were not aware of most of those things a moment ago, and you will stop being aware of them again within seconds of finishing this sentence. Your brain is receiving approximately 11 million bits of information every single second from your senses. 11 million. And of those 11 million bits, it allows roughly 40 to reach your conscious awareness. 40 bits per second. Out of 11 million. Everything else is deleted before you ever have a chance to know it existed. This is not a malfunction. This is not a limitation you should wish away. This is the most important editorial decision your brain makes. Every second of every day, without your input, without your awareness, and without your permission. And the criteria it uses to decide what survives and what disappears reveal something deeply uncomfortable about the nature of your own experience. The filtering system your brain uses has a name. Psychologists call it selective attention, but that name understates what is actually happening. Selective attention implies a conscious choice, a deliberate narrowing of focus. What your brain is actually doing is far more radical than that. It is not narrowing your focus. It is constructing your reality. The version of the world you experience is not the world. It is a heavily edited summary of the world, assembled from a tiny fraction of available information, shaped by what your brain has decided in advance is worth paying attention to. The mechanism starts in the thalamus. This small, oval-shaped structure sitting near the center of your brain acts as the primary relay station for sensory information. Almost everything your senses collect passes through the thalamus before it goes anywhere else. And the thalamus does not simply pass information along. It gates it. It decides, based on signals it receives from the cortex and the brainstem, which streams of sensory data are allowed to continue upward toward consciousness and which are blocked. Most are blocked. The thalamus is less like a relay station and more like a bouncer at a door that only lets in one person for every 250,000 trying to get through. What determines who gets in? Novelty, relevance, emotional significance, threat. Your brain is running a continuous triage on incoming sensory data, evaluating every piece of information against a set of filters that were shaped partly by evolution and partly by your personal history. A sudden loud sound gets through because sudden loud sounds have historically been associated with danger. Your own name gets through in a crowded room because your brain has learned over a lifetime that your name being spoken is almost always relevant to you. A familiar smell can bypass conscious attention entirely, travel a direct route to the emotional centers of the brain, and produce a feeling before you have even identified what you smelled. But the vast majority of what is happening around you and inside you does not meet any of those criteria. The hum of a refrigerator becomes invisible within seconds of noticing it. The sensation of your shoes against your feet disappears within minutes of putting them on. The background noise of a city that felt overwhelming when you first moved there becomes something you stop hearing entirely within weeks. The brain registers these sensory inputs, processes them just enough to determine they are not new, not threatening, not emotionally significant, and then routes them away from consciousness before they ever reach your awareness. They existed. You processed them. You will never know you did. This process has a specific name in neuroscience. Habituation. The systematic reduction of a neural response to a stimulus that is repeated without consequence. Every time your brain encounters a stimulus and nothing bad happens, it turns down the volume on that stimulus slightly. Encounter it enough times, and the volume goes to zero. You have habituated to the constant hum of your own life, the textures of your familiar environment, the rhythms of your daily routine, until they have largely ceased to exist for you as conscious experience. And here is where it becomes genuinely unsettling. The brain does not just delete sensory information. It fills in the gaps it created. When your brain removes something from your conscious field, it does not leave a visible hole. It patches the gap using predictions, using context, using memory of what is usually there. You do not experience the deletion. You experience a seamless, continuous reality that feels complete, even though it is assembled from a fraction of the available data, with the rest fabricated from expectation. The most famous demonstration of this is the blind spot. Your retina has a region with no photoreceptors at all, where the optic nerve connects. Every human being has a literal gap in their visual field. You have never seen it. Not because it is invisible, but because your brain fills it in automatically, painting over the gap with whatever color and pattern surrounds it, producing a seamless visual experience that gives no indication that a piece of it was invented. Your visual reality contains fabricated content right now, at this moment, and you cannot perceive the seam. The same mechanism applies to the rest of your experience. The version of this room you are experiencing right now is not the room. It is a model of the room, built from a tiny sample of actual sensory data, filled in with prediction and expectation, and delivered to your consciousness as though it were complete and accurate. Most of what feels like perception is actually memory. Most of what feels like seeing is actually expecting. And the content of that model, the things your brain chooses to include and the things it chooses to delete, is not neutral. It is shaped by everything you have ever feared, everything you have ever wanted, everything you have been trained by experience to treat as significant. Two people in the same room are not having the same experience. They are each running their own edited version of it, constructed by a brain that has its own history, its own filters, its own list of what is worth keeping and what can safely be thrown away. You have never experienced the world directly. You have experienced a model. And the model was built by something that has its own agenda, something that is running inside you right now, deleting most of what is happening, filling in the rest, and delivering the result to your consciousness as reality.